It just got very real as we are now inching closer and closer to the beginning of the regular season. It is the time where moves are going to be made as the Jays finalize their roster. But one player in particular has not only continued to shine all the way through spring training, but has forced the Jays into a very difficult decision surrounding his future with the team, specifically as it pertains to him making the opening day roster. And then one player who currently has not only struggled in spring training, but has the potential now to be on the outside looking in, and that is Davis Snyder. We're going to break down some new updates that have emerged, some new reports surrounding the Jays' decision making, and what their plan is going forward, as well as a ton of other updates, including Vladimir Guerrero Jr. going crazy in the WBC and more. You're going to want to stay tuned to the very end of the video. But before we get into it, a very quick reminder, folks, to hit that subscribe button. You guys have been absolute beasts with the support. Now, ladies and gentlemen, a lot to go over today, of course, and we're going to be touching in on a player who I brought up a couple weeks ago, and that is Eloy Jimenez. And he has continued to mash. He did good. He's been doing really well. But it has brought up a question now between him and Davis Schneider. And I want to start with this, and this was a tweet from about a week ago, and it goes to Eloy, or maybe a couple weeks ago at this point. But I want to start with this, and we're going to dive into some updates from today, yesterday, etc. The Eloy Jimenez situation is quite interesting to me. Generally, the Blue Jays prioritize defensive versatility and consistent contact skills. That being said, the pop against lefties would be nice to have. Curious to see how it plays come opening day. And of course, I had a video on this. I started covering it and how Eloy Jimenez was looking really good, all these different things. And you look at it now, he has been really, really good in spring training, like scary good. And you could see back on March 13th, he had a 937 OPS this spring. And Daniel Franceschi of Sportsnet says, I've been exceptionally intrigued by Eloy Jimenez this spring. Could end up being a great lottery ticket piece for the Jays. I like his odds of finding some playing time this year. So as we are now less than 2 weeks away, we're 11 days away from opening day. He's forcing his way onto this team, and he's somebody who's had good years in the past. I've covered that before. He obviously transformed his body. When the Toronto Blue Jays signed him, they did so as a lottery ticket, and then Hector Gomez came out and said that he, again, has been transforming his body in the offseason and really getting himself in good shape. It's translated. He looks fantastic, and all of a sudden now, you look at what a lineup could look like. We look back to February 25th. Started playing around with the idea of Eloy Jimenez making the opening day roster and the fallout for the lineup as a result. This is my first crack at predicting how it would all shake out. Now, of course, this was a month ago-ish, a bit less than a month ago. And if you get Eloy Jimenez in, you could potentially be looking at some areas where here you're keeping Davis Schneider. But the point is, people have been talking about this all spring long. They're going to have to make a decision soon. So let's look at his current stats as of March 16th. Now, his OPS has dropped a little bit since that tweet. It's down to an 861. It's in such a small sample size to where every little over, if he goes over 3, over 2, it'll drop a lot. But still, a very good 861 OPS. Finishes with 2 home runs thus far. So finished, obviously, yesterday with that. And has been really solid. Incredibly solid. Now, you're looking at what other players he's going up against. You could argue Davis Schneider. You could argue some other guys. You never really know the Ross Atkins thinking and the plans of what he has behind the scenes. Davis Schneider in spring training, 3 for 28 with a 385 OPS. Now, last time I made a video on this, a lot of you guys were kind of going at me saying the Jays aren't going to give up on Davis Schneider, and that they were. You guys said a lot of valid points. He's continued to struggle a little bit better than what he was when I think his OPS was 100 a couple weeks ago when I covered it. It is small sample size. Like I say, I had to be fair both sides, and he's coming off a very good regular season. And I'm not saying they're going to, cut Davis Schneider, but what I am saying is it is a very intriguing decision to make now, especially, and Eloy might start the season in AAA, and he came out and said as much a couple weeks ago. He said, whatever the Jays have in store for me, I'm ready to work. He obviously has been somebody who struggled at times, was once a highly touted prospect. At the same time, you look at what he's done this year in spring, he's looked extremely, extremely solid. And that's not something that you can overstate too much, but it's also, let's keep in mind, it is spring training, right? But these decisions for guys like Eloy Jimenez, for guys like Davis Schneider, are based specifically off of mainly Eloy Jimenez, right? Like, they're basing their decision off of how he looks both at spring training and behind the scenes when you pull the curtain back. Now, a good tweet here from Damon. If Eloy ends up making the roster, the odd man out is either a Nathan Lucas trade or Davis Schneider starting the year in AAA. So you can send Davis Schneider down to AAA if they want to start it there. You're not losing the asset. I think they're more likely to keep Davis Schneider up and start Eloy in AAA and then see how things happen. Because, Schneider was in the team last year, was a part of the, World Series team, the playoff run, and ultimately was a very, very solid piece and contributor in certain instances to the team. In the same vein, you look at what he did in spring training, struggled a little bit. Now, in the regular season looked pretty darn good. I'm fine with, the Jays giving Davis Schneider the chance to start, off rip. But again, he's also their backup second baseman at this juncture. It's a decision that has to be made with very, very, with urgency, I guess is the best word to use. Because if you go out and Davis Schneider continues to struggle in the regular season, I'm hoping he doesn't. I don't want to be portrayed as, I don't want to portray myself rather as a Davis Schneider hater. I'm a huge fan of Davis Schneider. The problem is, and maybe somebody else can get, sent down and do all these different things. I'm really high on Eloy Jimenez right now. It seems like he made some big tangible changes when the signing happened. I talked about how David Popkins is going to be able to be a very useful piece for him, like he has been since joining the team in general. And you can make some really dominant lineups against lefties that include potentially both Schneider and Eloy Jimenez, but just a lot of players that can really, really hit the left-handed pitching, especially now that Bo Bichette's gone. You're going to have to figure that out somewhere. So it's pretty exciting stuff, and I found this tweet from March 2nd. He started off the spring and has tailed off a little bit. Look at these exit velocities, and these are the things that you can look at, especially when you're starting to dive into the real decision-making behind the scenes. He hit so many balls over, 90 miles per hour, 3 over 100. Let me know, though, down below. Do you see the Jays picking Eloy Jimenez over Davis Schneider? I'm not saying it's going to happen right away, but it's something you have to keep an eye out on, especially because Keegan Matheson came on my show there like a month or so ago and said in spring training, Davis is going to have to earn it. That's what the reporter of MLB.com, Keegan Matheson, said. He hasn't earned it yet. Is there somebody else behind the scenes they're looking at as well? Could it be a RJ Schreck, a Josh Kasevich type? Maybe, probably eventually. Though I think the first guy up knocking on the door is Eloy Jimenez, and he's going to be ready to go, especially if Davis Schneider continues to struggle and then ultimately struggles at the MLB level. Let me know down below what your thoughts are on all this, folks. It's going to continue to be pretty exciting stuff. A couple other updates here. Kevin Gausman yesterday pitched in a minor league game against the Phillies and ultimately threw 70 pitches. Lots of changeup and sliders. He wants to use more changeups in 2026, which is intriguing. He didn't use them a ton last year. He's obviously mainly a fastball splitter guy. I'm loving Kevin Gausman in his mid-30s, still looking at ways to improve and still trying to figure out ways to get better. I mean, you look at some of the other, this starting rotation is extremely experienced, I guess is the best word to use. They are a veteran group and they can bounce off of each other, whether that be Max Scherzer, Dylan Cease, Kevin Gausman, all feeding information to each other. Cody Ponce when he was overseas, all these guys. And the best part is about this, Gausman's the opening day starter. We're going to see changeups in 11 days from now, which is super exciting to me. And ultimately, I'm excited just to see what this team is able to do, especially to start the year. And speaking of guys who are going to start the year hot, quick wrap up.
The tension of spring training can feel like the quiet rumble before a summer storm. And suddenly, the Toronto Blue Jays have been handed a wave of news that could reshape the early weeks of the season. Just when questions were beginning to swirl around injuries and roster depth, fresh updates have arrived like a gust of optimism through the clubhouse doors. Today on the Blue Jays Report, we're diving into a series of developments that might quietly shift the trajectory of this team before opening day even arrives. Before we break it all down, make sure you like the video, share it with fellow Jays fans, and subscribe to the Blue Jays Report for daily updates as the season approaches. Your support truly keeps the engine running here. One of the most intriguing updates involves Trey Yesavage, who has finally returned to the mound during spring action. After weeks of uncertainty, he stepped back onto the field and delivered a controlled 35-pitch outing against minor league hitters. The results themselves weren't the headline. The real victory was simply seeing him pitch again. In baseball terms, that moment felt almost symbolic, like a door creaking open after being shut all winter. The plan appears to be a cautious build-up, with shorter outings expected early in the year, but the mere fact that he's active again offers a reassuring signal for the organization. Another encouraging development comes with Ricky Tiedemann, who has resumed throwing after battling injuries that stalled his progress in recent seasons. For a pitcher once tipped as a future star, his return to even light throwing feels like the first chapter of a potential comeback story. Fans still remember the explosive velocity he displayed during previous spring camps, and the hope now is that patience will allow that promise to re-emerge. Meanwhile, the bullpen received quietly positive news as both García and Bieber continue their recovery progress. They remain on similar rehabilitation schedules, steadily working through flat ground sessions without setbacks. It may not sound dramatic, but in baseball terms, stability during recovery can be just as valuable as a dominant performance on the mound. The club remains pleased with their progress, and if all goes well, both pitchers could reinforce the roster within the first month of the season. Beyond the pitching updates, excitement continues to ripple through the broader baseball world as Canada national baseball team pushes forward in the World Baseball Classic, adding another layer of energy to an already thrilling preseason. So as opening day creeps closer, the atmosphere around Toronto is shifting from concern to cautious optimism. Injured arms are stirring back to life, young talents are reappearing on the radar, and the roster puzzle is slowly coming into focus. If you enjoyed this update, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the Blue Jays Report, and let me know your thoughts in the comments. Because if these early signs hold true, the Blue Jays may be preparing for a season far more interesting than anyone expected.